How is everyone? How are people enjoying their juice of a few flowers? It's really just like having orange juice in the morning with that little bit of gin that'll give you that picky up. The Americans that came to Paris weren't always very popular, and there was an Americanization of Paris going on that
Oh,
Parisians were all too aware of, and many decried it, but actually few could argue with the all too popular um, export that America sent. Or maybe you could see it as a kind of asylum seeker in the light of Prohibition, which was the cocktail. American expats and visitors came to Paris to drink, and Paris capitalized on that. And many cafes and brasseries open un bar américain, that's an American bar. And an American bar always meant cocktails. In fact, the 1920s, this era in Paris is sometimes known as the cocktail era, l'époque du cocktail. Um, so from the Murphy's flat, from the Murphy's apartment, let's go over the river, go north to Harry's New York bar, which was just south of the Opera House on the Rue Danube. And we'd probably go there by taxi. People went by taxis all the time. And if you read Hemingway's The Sun Also Rises, certainly the first part, they're just zooming around in taxis all the time. Um, Harry's was popular with Americans who remembered and mourned the days before Prohibition, and also with a lot of Brits. It was a very English speaking sort of place. I'll read to you how it was described by a contemporary Paris guidebook. Harry's place was everything once familiar in America: a lipped mahogany bar, a brass footrail, a free lunch of pickles and cheese and crackers, all the usual hooch on the shelf, several white jacketed bartenders, experts with cocktail shaker and full of pharmaceutical advice of a gray morning, swinging front doors, and a mahogany framed bar mirror. Harry was a Scotsman who had worked at a number of bars in Britain and the US and in France. And in fact, the New York bar was his first job in France in the early 1920s. In 1923, he decided to buy it, and he made it Harry's. He put Harry in front of the name, so now it's Harry's New York Bar. It's well known. It's still there today. It's believed to have originated the Bloody Mary and the sidecar, along with a number of other cocktails. What people know less about Harry's really is that it also is a place where the Order of International Barflies was created. In 1924, there was an article in Cosmopolitan that was lamenting the barflies of our fair city of Paris, that it was becoming a place of drunkards. And Jed Kelly, who was a nightclub owner, he said that, okay, there is a problem with all these barflies. It's absolutely terrible, and they need help. So I am going to donate the proceeds of my club, the Christmas Eve proceeds, to the needy barflies of Harry's and Frank's Ritz Bar and other charitable institutions. So that very day, Christmas 1924, the international the Order of International Barflies was founded by Harry, and he called it a secret society for the uplift and downfall of serious drinkers. And members would greet each other with a fraternal bzz, bzz, bzz. And I'd like to share with you actually some of the rules of there's about 12 or 15 rules, but I'll share with you some of them here. Rule number 4, those who come to the trap, the groups are called traps. Those who come to the trap at 5 a.m. and are able to play the ukulele without a rehearsal are eligible for life membership. Members bumping their chins on the bar rail in the act of falling are suspended for 10 days. Those who decide this is my personal favorite. Those who decide drinking is a menace are welcome at all times. Just keep quiet. The initiation ceremony was that you flick a member on their left shoulder as if you're flicking off a fly. Then you hold up your right hand as if you are holding a drink. You put your right foot up as if on a bar rail, and you buzz. So if you ever meet a loyal member of the International Barflies, you can become a member. Maybe this is something we should start here. I don't know. It sounds like a great idea. The Barflies even had their own cocktail. It was the IBF pick-me-up. It appears in Harry's own book of recipes, Barflies and Cocktails, which was published in 27, and he attributed to Bob Card, who was a bartender, a cocktail mixer at Harry's. So I thought we'd try this one tonight, and if we can't be initiated into the Barflies, at least we can experience what drinking like a barfly would be. I want to talk a little about the ingredients. This is sparkling wine. It's usually champagne. I want to talk about Fernet Branca, which is a brand of Fernet. Fernet is a bitter, aromatic Italian spirit. Spices vary, of course, according to the recipe, but generally it's got myrrh, rhubarb, chamomile, aloe, and always saffron. And they use a grape distilled spirit as the base. It's great as a digestif, so it's a wonderful thing to have after dinner. The other thing I wanted to talk about is dashes, because we're going to put dashes of things in here. And you're never quite sure, well, what's a dash? And I did a lot of research on this, and I found that in the artistry of mixing drinks, which was written by Frank Meyer, who was a Ritz bar bartender in Paris. He says this: one dash is 12 drops. So 6 dashes is a teaspoon, which means that 3 dashes is half a teaspoon, which is what we're going to be working with now. Secondly, I want to talk about curacao. The recipe calls for curacao. Traditionally, curacao was made with dried peel of la raja, which is a bitter orange that's grown on the Curacao Island in the Caribbean. And people always ask me, what's the difference between curacao and triple sec and Cointreau? And well, there really isn't that much of a difference. In fact, the very famous curacao, Pierre Ferrand Curacao, calls itself a classic French triple sec. But broadly, curacao is more frequently distilled from brandy, cognac, or sugarcane. It has a sweeter quality and a dark coloring, whereas triple sec is distilled from a neutral grain spirit. It has a drier quality and a clear appearance. And just to confuse everything, I am going to use Cointreau tonight. So let's just clear that up. So let us start. I am making 2. So we're going to get some ice in our shaker as before. It calls for 6 dashes of Fernet Branc, 3 dashes rather. So I'm putting in 6, so that is a teaspoon. It calls for the same of Curacao or triple sec or Cointreau. Then it says a glass a lot of the older cocktail recipes just say a glass or a wine glass. So you got to make a decision as to what you're going to add so that it doesn't overwhelm the things that are already in it. So it calls for brandy. So I'm going to add 2 ounces of brandy per drink. So that's 4 for me. And I am using cognac. I'm using Courvoisier. I'm going to move these away. And give that a good shake. They stick sometimes. Harry's book says to strain into medium-sized wine glasses. Well, wine glasses are considerably bigger than they used to be. So I've got these 2 little vintage glasses, and we're going to use that. Sort of divide it, making 2. And then top it off. I'd fill it to about, in this class, I guess I would fill it to about 2/3 full or 3/4 full maybe. And there you are. There's the IBF pick-me-up. Now,